This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in, everybody, to this week's edition of Doc and Jock. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Joining me, a spectacular crew of writers, podcasters, here today to break down just a few hours away, the biggest day in Detroit Lions, biggest day for all Detroit Lions fans, their Super Bowl. It's the Detroit Lions draft, baby. Just a few hours away. We're going to break it all down. If you remember last year, our draft spectacular, many are back. Some couldn't attend. Some are pumping out twins. Some are doing their scouting and doing their work. But here today is Vito Churko, Christian Booher, Cameron Clothier, and Adam Strozinski. All good guys. I hope that we can have as much fun as we did last time. What's up, cuz? What's happening?
Man, I'm looking forward to this. This was fun last year. It's going to be fun this year. You already sent out the list of who everybody's gets everybody's drafting for. So I hope all you guys did your research. I know I was up late last night doing research, playing around, tinkering, and I just can't wait to do this with you guys. So I'm excited. I'm glad you guys are all here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great crew, and really you can't run a podcast network, run a website for multiple years unless you got good guys doing everything behind the scenes. Vito, Cameron. I think the best part of my week is when Cameron gets to look at Vito and he goes, he still hasn't learned how to figure the seating chart out. And he's like, give him a piece of tape. And then I think he actually did it. Cameron, I think he listened to you because the last 3 weeks, he's been in perfect spot. Look at him today. He's in a good spot today.
Well, you know what? Come on, man. It just takes me a little bit longer to learn the craft, perfect it. Okay, I don't know what that says about me. There might be a certain word for that. We're not going to bring it up. But you know what? I do my best. Best here, John. That should be good enough for you and Cameron.
It only took Vito 3 years to get it right.
3 years to figure out how to sit in a chair and look.
I would say 2.5. Come on.
2.5.
2.5 now. Come on, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we got Christian, who's doing amazing work, writing, getting all the insights over there at Central as well. Christian, honestly, you've made Vito's job a lot easier because all the stuff that you put out, I would have had Vito put out. So always.
Thank God.
Yes. Always when you can help us out, it's a great thing. And the speed in which you put out stuff is amazing. And you said yesterday, you're like, I'm ready to go. So I'll start with you then. I'll start with you, Christian, because you're covering it just as much as everybody else. What are you thinking the Lions are going to be doing with number 2? Because everyone's talking about it. I think it's going to be Trayvon Walker number 1. I think seriously that the talk is the Jaguars are going to swing for the fences, and that would involve Trayvon Walker, which is the best part for all of us because we at the core get the debate that we started with in the offseason. Aiden Hutchinson versus Kayvon Thibodeau. And for me personally, not as the reporter, not as the sports fan, me personally, I would love it if Aiden Hutchinson's there and the Lions passed on him. I got a tweet chambered that's ready to go. Just talking about Michigan. If they pass on Aiden Hutchinson, what an indictment on the program if that's the case. I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's going to be Aiden, me personally. But Christian, I'll start with you. What do you think they do at number 2? What's the best plan for the Lions?
You know, I personally am a fan of when men are men and we see, chest bumps and chest slaps and high fives. And if Aiden Hutchinson gets by the Jaguars, I think your Inside the Den video is going to be awesome. I mean, you're going to be seeing Dan Campbell pounding on tables. You're going to see Brad Holmes running around the room, hugs, high fives. I think if Aiden Hutchinson's there, you can't pass on him. This whole offseason and however long the draft cycle is, as soon as the season ends, it feels like you just run through so many scenarios in your head. I mean, I know I personally have gone through so many different phases. You think about it long enough, you think, oh, well, Jared Goff's contract gets friendly at the end of the year. Why not shoot for the moon with a Malik Willis? And then you kind of come back down to earth and you think, okay, well, this team has a lot more needs that are a lot more pressing. And you kind of want to build a nucleus before you get the quarterback. So, yeah, I think if Hutchinson's there, you got to take him. And, a lot of people are questioning whether or not Kayvon Thibodeau loves football. I got news for you. what is it? Whatever, however much money he's going to make, however many millions of dollars are going to go into his wallet after he's picked number 2 overall. That'll make somebody love football a heck of a lot more. Okay, so I think that there's some concerns there, and obviously with the culture that Dan Campbell's trying to build, you don't want somebody who can kind of bring that down. But I think Thibodeau would be just fine in Detroit. I really do. So I think kind of my tier would be Hutchinson 1, Thibodeau 2. I don't think we need a project. I mean, I love what Trayvon Walker has to offer. I just don't think it's a super good fit at number 2 overall with a team that wants to try and kind of get this thing back on track. You can't afford to go for a guy who might have a higher ceiling, but also probably has a lower floor. So yeah, that's just a long-winded way of saying, give me Aiden Hutchinson if he's there. And then if not, give me Thibodeau.
Yeah, thinking about it, I'm surrounded by blue in this meeting. I can't believe this. I can't think of any of you guys that would have a bad thing to say about Aiden Hutchinson. Cuz, what do you think? Because I think you're looking at it as much as everybody else. The pick of Aiden Hutchinson really has a chance to be safe and be of a player that can be productive for 10 years, that can kind of be a culture player in that locker room, that would love playing for Dan Campbell, and the feeling would be mutual. But the biggest concern that everybody would have is you take Aiden Hutchinson number 2, Kayvon's pissed, and now he goes out there and ends up with the Texans or the Jets and has a productive Hall of Fame career, leaving everybody in Detroit going, really? The hometown guy? I don't know. It really is. I'm torn 50-50 regarding which player it's going to be. One situation I have Aiden, another I'm talking about Kayvon. But for me, I'm leaning a little bit more toward Kayvon being the better player overall. But I'm curious now, as the dust settles, who do you think the Lions should take, and why would they be the best player for Detroit right now?
Well, I mean, I think everybody kind of feels that way, right? Like the consensus going around is Kayvon Thibodeau obviously has the higher ceiling. I don't think he did himself any favors when he was doing his whole pre-draft scuttlebutt, basically saying he wants to go to New York. He wants to be in New York. It almost felt like he had that Ndamukong Suh-esque mentality where he needs a big market. He needs a big market so he can do whatever it is that he wants to do, whatever his extracurricular activities are going to be. He needs to have a market as big as his personality. So he's pinpointed either the Jets or the Giants, and that's where he's got to go. So it kind of seemed like he had pulled himself out of contention with the Lions ahead of time. I think with Aiden Hutchinson, the floor is much more shallow, and he is a safer pick because of that. I think with Aiden Hutchinson, he's a guy who they talk about culture a lot with this Detroit Lions brand, right? With Bob or with Brad Holmes and with Dan Campbell to basically get away from everything that Bob Quinn was, everything that Matt Patricia was. They talk about culture a ton. This is a guy who gets a lot of credit for rebranding and redoing the culture with the University of Michigan this last season. So it seems like it'd be a perfect marriage if he's there at 2. If he's available at 2, it seems like it's almost a no-brainer. 1, safe pick. 2, culture guy. 3, a guy who you know and you don't have to worry about working hard. He's going to come in. He's going to do everything he can do. I really think with Aiden Hutchinson, it gets a little bit weird, gets a little bit murky when you start looking at some of the physical attributes compared to some of these other guys. When you've got guys like a Kayvon Thibodeau, when you've got guys like Trayvon Smith who are out there and they're just athletic freaks. They're guys that can be put into different spots in different situations, and they seem to really excel. Not saying that Aiden Hutchinson isn't, but saying that he just doesn't necessarily measure up as well as those guys do. I feel like if Aiden Hutchinson's there, the Detroit Lions are taking him no matter what, because it's safe. It's the culture. It's all the little intangibles that they can use to kind of build around him. Now, I don't know if that'll be a good pick because I always get nervous, and you guys tell me where you guys sit. Does anybody else get nervous when a hometown kid goes to his hometown team? It always just kind of feels like there's added pressure and there's a bunch of outside influences that really make me nervous with that pick.
Vito, I'll ask you this in regards to that, in regards to your feeling about nerves and things like that. Do you feel? I feel like Aiden Hutchinson would have no problem handling the pressure. The nerves would probably come in obviously early on, but I think, being comfortable, being ready to go, I think that he's got a lot to prove. And in a locker room that the Lions have, I don't think that he's going to come in and shy away from the situation, especially when he played at Michigan, and coming back and having the pressure that he had playing against Ohio State, Georgia. There's been some times when he's been called upon and he stepped up. Obviously, sometimes when it hasn't. But I don't think the moment will be too big for Aiden Hutchinson. I know you're probably really excited potentially to see Aiden Hutchinson in town, but I don't think the moment will be too big for him, right, Vito?
Well, I think you said all the right things in the pre-draft process. And remember, he played in a big-time program in U of M. Playing at Michigan, I think, helps you get ready for the pros. And, for as much slack as he got for not being a big-time performer in the biggest games of the season, think about what he did against Ohio State. He almost single-handedly helped them win that game against their arch rival, a team that Jim Harbaugh had never beaten before, that Aiden Hutchinson on U of M, when he was on U of M, had never beaten before. So think about it. He played a huge role in that victory for the Wolverines. Now, against Georgia, sure, he wasn't as productive, but he was double-teamed, triple-teamed. So you can't totally use that against him. Because when you look at his overall film and what he did specifically this past season, well, he was super productive. A hugely productive edge rusher that got after the QB with ease. So he proved himself largely. And remember, he came into the 2021 campaign not being this big-time draft prospect. Sure, he would have been a guy drafted, but not number 1 or number 2. So let's say he would have been a first-rounder, but with how good he played this past season, he proved himself and warranted being now this number 1 pick or number 2 overall selection. So I think because of that, John, he could deal with the noise. He could go to the Lions and perform right away and not be bothered by all the expectations because he's been the guy that's had to prove the doubters wrong over the years. He wasn't as big of a prospect coming out of high school and a local product coming out of Dearborn and Vine Child High School in Michigan. Whereas you look at Kevon Thibodeau, he was this big-time high school prospect, a top prospect in his year's rankings. And he might have been the number 1 and was the number 1 prospect, in my opinion, according to some publications going into Oregon. So, he's never really had to prove. Well, he's had to prove, I guess, that he was, worthy of the number 1 status as a recruit. But Thibodeau's always been this highly heralded dude. Aiden Hutchinson hasn't always been that guy. So I think it gives him some sort of an edge, no pun intended, as an edge defender to play with. And I think that makes him a sexy prospect in the eyes of Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes because they're looking at a guy that will work harder than Kevon Thibodeau, perhaps. And I think it gives Aiden Hutchinson that edge over Thibodeau. And I think right now they probably have Hutchinson at 1, Thibodeau at number 2. But I also view it like this, and you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't think the Lions could go wrong with either guy, with Thibodeau or Hutchinson. If they were to get Thibodeau at number 2, I would have run to the podium with that draft card with Thibodeau's name on it too. Because guess what? That'd be a home run pick as well with the deficiency the Lions have as a pass rushing unit.
Yeah, I'll give my thoughts on Kayvon Thibodeau as well, because there's a concern there that, maybe hasn't been talked about outside of football, like Adam said, in regards to his brand. But I want to give Cameron a chance to get here and give his thoughts. I know he is a huge Michigan supporter. How excited are you potentially? Are you going to get a 97 Aiden Hutchinson jersey the moment you know that the Lions pick him? Are you going to fanboy out and get really excited? Or are you going to say maybe get a little bit panicked that he's going to be a bust? Because I'm at the panic level because of the fact that if Thibodeau drops, he may drop to number 6, 7, 8, maybe even out of the top 10. Personality concerns, somebody that's all about his brand and this new wave of athlete might not exactly gel with certain NFL teams. So that's why it's going to be interesting to see what he brings to the table in regards to his attitude once he gets drafted. But I think you're probably one of the most excited people that Aiden Hutchinson could be a Lion.
Absolutely. So first and foremost, no, I'm not going to run out and get an Aiden Hutchinson jersey. I've never owned a Lions jersey in my life, and I don't think Hutchinson is going to be my first one. I'm just going to put that on record and say that. But I do agree with a lot of the points that you guys have made. I do think that Hutchinson is the safe pick. I think he's a huge culture guy, which is what Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes are looking for. And I think he's going to come in and he's going to bring his motor and he's going to give you high energy. I mean, this is a guy that performed well at Michigan, especially last season, being in one of the finalists for the Heisman. And I just think that this is the kind of guy that the Lions are really looking for. You don't want somebody that's having doubts about, how much they love football or how hard they're going to work, or that's more focused on their brand rather than being, that kind of like rookie guy. So I think if Hutchinson is there, that's the safe pick for me. That is my selection. But then, like Christian said, Kayvon is probably number 2 for me. I don't think there's anyone else that really is gonna be that type of impact guy that the Lions are looking for with this number 2 overall pick.
Yeah, look at me, surrounded by all this Wolverine support. Now, here's my concern for Thibodeau. Okay, right now as we're talking, I'm sensing Sue 2.0, a guy that wants to, obviously he's going to say the right things. I mean, this guy is programmed to say the right things. He loves Brad Holmes like his uncle. Family reunion at Oregon with Brad Holmes, blowing up the phone of Dan Campbell. Okay, that's all fine and dandy. But when it comes down to it, I have the feeling that he may end up performing at very high levels throughout his first 3-4 years. And then when the time comes, you're going to start potentially having that report where Vito or Adam are like, John, Kayvon just scrubbed the Lions off all his social media. We're like, what? Yes, thank you. Let's start getting some content. And then he's going to be like, no, I have no problem with the Lions. This is just something I did. And then you're going to start that cycle of Kayvon wants to be the highest paid defensive end in the universe. You're going to have that sense of he'll play well. He'll be a guy that does go out there and gets his sacks and does well. But when it comes down to it, he's going to have that agent blowing up Brad Holmes' phone for a 5-year, $175 million deal with $100 million guaranteed, and he'll bolt because someone will give it to him. That position, the edge rusher position, is so coveted, and if he performs well, he'll get paid. And you can't tell me, no matter what culture, look who stayed. All the players that stayed in Detroit are all players that basically probably weren't going to get any kind of a deal elsewhere. Kayvon Thibodeau could go to the Jets, could go to the team in the AFC, likes a Denver, the Patriots, a team that's contending. The Rams might come calling if they're still around. I have a feeling that Kayvon would be an amazing player in Detroit, should be the number 2 pick. But when the time comes, my biggest fear and panic would be that he would play the business card and bolt out of here just as fast as Sue did and leave Detroit high and dry. Am I wrong? Christian, am I wrong with my fear? Do you think that he would be somebody that would be too much of a risk? Or what odds would you say that Brad Holmes, because look, Brad Holmes went out there. He didn't go out to Michigan. You didn't see that photo op. He went out to Oregon with that huge smile and yucked it up with Kayvon Thibodeau. That leads me to believe he might have just a little bit of a leg up in the process, but it gives me fear he's not going to be a guy that would be loyal to Detroit coming from the West Coast.
Yeah, I think that remains to be seen, but I think what you're defining, what you're describing is just the way of the world now. I mean, across professional sports, you're seeing that, right? Everybody wants that new contract. They want stability, and if they don't get it from the team they're playing on, then the concept of loyalty kind of goes out the window, and you see people trying to force trades. I mean, look at Deebo Samuel. Really look at this whole offseason across the NFL. It's just kind of something that's the new normal around here. They want that. The players want stability, and sometimes maybe they think they're worth a little bit more than what they are to the team, and sometimes the team undervalues them. You just kind of have to see it from both lenses. But no, I think you're absolutely right. I think that at some point with Thibodeau, and that's not to say that wouldn't happen with Aiden Hutchinson or that wouldn't happen with whoever they take at number 2 overall. But like I said, that's just kind of the new normal now, and that's something you kind of got to expect. I think that with Hutchinson, it would be a little bit different because he's, a Dearborn kid, played at Michigan. I don't think it would be as much about the money just because he's local. But I certainly think that the whole and when I went on the Zoom call with Daniel Jeremiah, he kind of talked about this, especially with quarterbacks. They want those second contracts sooner. The players do. And for that reason, sometimes you see these holdouts and sometimes you see these guys forcing trades. I mean, it'll be fascinating to see draft night with all these guys that are rumored to be on the move. But yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. I think that's a valid concern, and we'll just have to see where it goes wherever he ends up.
All right,
Can I say something really quick?
Yeah.
Can I say something really quick too? So in reference to this, I think you're right. I feel bad, obliging with you and saying that you're right again, John, but I think you really are. I think we might all, I don't know, maybe we don't all agree with you. But I will say this too. It's like the risk you have to take as Brad Holmes and company in that Detroit front office. Do you risk taking Thibodeau, him blowing up, having a 12.5 sack season, a 14.5 sack season, a couple of great years of football, but him wanting out eventually, right? Because he wants more money. He wants more fame and notoriety. He wants all of that for himself, for his personal brand. So you risk that. You can get a couple of great seasons out of him. You just hopefully win at the same time as a team. You hopefully win while he's real productive. Or, once again, you lose him the rest of the way. Whereas with Hutchinson, I think it is the safer pick by far, because I can see where, okay, maybe he's not going to be as productive, as dominant of a pass rusher, but a good pass rusher who gets 8.5 sacks a year, like let's say 6.5 to 8.5 sacks a year. So, and he's going to stay in Motown. He's going to stay in Motown over the long term for 5 to 10 years. But he might not be the all-pro guy. Whereas Kayvon Thibodeau might only give you 2, 3, 4 years, let's say 5 tops in a Detroit uniform, but he's an all-pro guy. So you got to weigh the pros and cons once again. Hutchinson, I think, would stay with you longer, not as productive, wouldn't be the all-pro guy, productive but not that, whereas Thibodeau will stay for a shorter span with you, but be more productive. So once again, you just hopefully win with him while he is in Motown.
See, if you're a general manager, you can't go into it thinking like that. Like, there's no way you can go into it thinking like that. Let me put it to you like this. If any one of you guys had Aaron Donald on your team, you'd be cutting him a check tomorrow because he's that dominant of a player. If Kayvon Thibodeau is going to be the next Aaron Donald, you're going to cut him a check and you're going to pay him no matter what. It doesn't matter. You can't go into it thinking, well, in 4 years, he might want out. Well, you've got that 5th-year option. You're going to keep him on that 5th-year option. If anything, you can franchise him until you can work something out or possibly trade him. Remember, you can always franchise a guy, and it's going to suck because it's going to murder your cap, but you can always franchise a guy, and then you can trade him away to get something better. So if for some reason you do have Kayvon Thibodeau, and he does want to be in New York, you can franchise him and you can work out some type of sign and trade deal with the Jets or with the Giants and send him there and get draft capital back in return. Yeah, that sucks, but there are ways to do business. You can't go into it with that mindset like, oh, I got to draft the safe guy. I've got to draft the guy who's going to stay with us longer, who will be able to sign that second contract with. You can't do that. You got to go in there and you got to build this team to be as explosive on the defensive side of the ball as possible and as explosive on the offensive side of the ball as possible. And if Kayvon Thibodeau's that guy and you're Brad Holmes and you feel that confident that he's that guy who's going to get you guys to that next level and make you a dominant football team that's going to be respected around the league, because let's be honest, the Detroit Lions are not respected by anybody. If he's that guy who's going to make you a respected team, you go out there and you grab him. You've got the second pick, you take him. If that's that guy who's going to be that difference maker, you do it.
Well, real quick, too, I'm not saying don't take Thibodeau. I'm saying actually you might want to because of what I just said. So even though I just said what I did about Hutchinson safer, that's almost a loser's mentality. I was describing the loser's mentality. Maybe I am a loser. That's why I'm not a GM or real successful and I'm working, with John.
You're the biggest winner here.
But come on, man. But no, I think that could be considered a loser's mentality and not the right approach for Brad Holmes and company when, like you said, Adam, you nailed it on the head. Detroit is not respected at all. So you want to start becoming respected, you got to start becoming a lot more competitive and you want to build your team into a winner. And how do you do that quicker? I think by getting Thibodeau perhaps over Hutchinson. So I made the case for Hutchinson, and I guess I'm playing the fence or riding the fence. I know I am here because I like Hutchinson and I like Thibodeau. I like both. And Hutchinson could still be picked at number 1. If that's the case and Thibodeau's best player available, at least he would be in my opinion, you rush to the podium and you turn in your card for Thibodeau at number 2. So I'm not saying don't take Thibodeau because of what I described for maybe his, brand importance and his cons. I'm saying you might want to consider taking him because of how productive he could be, even if you only get him in a Detroit uniform for 5 years as part of his rookie contract. As you said, picking up that 5th year as well. He'll be in the Motor City more than likely for 5 seasons. You can guarantee that. So not saying not to take Thibodeau once again.
Yeah, Cameron, is there anybody besides Thibodeau that would make you really upset or frustrated? I know we're going to talk about the potential of a quarterback or an outside candidate at number 2, but I just think it's going to end up being either Aiden Hutchinson or Kayvon Thibodeau. Now, another outlier is Jermaine Johnson. I think that the Florida State edge really did himself well, and I think, by all accounts, the pundits believe that he brings a level of a pass rush and a skill set similar to Thibodeau, but without all the baggage. They believe that he's got potentially more abilities to stop the run now and has the potential to be a really productive NFL player right out of the gate. So I think it's going to be one of those three. For me, if it's Ahmad Gardner, if it's Malik Willis, if it's Trayvon Walker, I'll be really surprised because of the risk that they're taking. I don't think that the Lions are going to be that spectacular and have this unique special board and have this crazy thing go on. I think they're going to stick it, they're going to stick to what they know in evaluation, and they know they need a pass rusher. So why not grab one of the two best in Hutchinson or Thibodeau? Keep it simple, make it so that everybody can get off your back and we can focus on number 32.
Yeah, John. Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think the needs are clear, and I think the Lions are going to make the safe pick, whether that ends up being Thibodeau or whether it ends up being Hutchinson. But I think what I'm curious to see is what happens with Malik Willis. I know we've done a lot of analysis on that at SIL Lions, and I think if the Lions took Willis, I would be pretty unhappy, only because he's not going to contribute immediately. He's going to be sort of like living in the shadow of Jared Goff for this next season. And I just think that would be a pick that would really not help propel this rebuild or this retooling of the team forward. I think you don't really know what you're going to get from Willis this year. And this is a guy that, maybe is not going to be able to contribute until next year or the following year. And so I think, looking at the names that are available on the board, I think that would be the pick to me that would be sort of confusing. And I'm curious to see what everybody else has to say, because I know that's sort of been debated. Should the Lions take him at number 2? Are they going to wait and see if he's available later on? Is there going to be a trade made? So definitely curious to hear your guys' thoughts on that. But I think that would be the one pick to me that if you take Malik Willis, it's sort of like a head scratcher. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, I'll start with this, setting the table with Malik Willis. I think it'd be the ultimate ballsy move to try and sell that to this fan base. I think you would have right down the middle people that would love it and say, you got the next guy, let's go, let's develop him and be really hopeful and positive. And then you'd have a lot of haters that would say, wait a minute, this is a guy that came from Liberty. This is a guy that takes too long at times to read through his progressions, that needs to develop as a pocket passer who's going to sit for a year. You're going to rile everybody up, and the first interception or fumble that Goff has with his baby hands, you're going to have people screaming. So I think, though, if Holmes and Campbell want to buy extra time in this rebuild, that's the way in which you do it, is you say, we got our guy at number 2 that we believe is going to be here in the future. We trust that we can get other defensive linemen later on, and we trust the likes of the Aquara brothers, Charles Harris, Austin Bryant. We like what we have here. We don't have to get one of the top guys. We can get somebody in the later rounds and do it. I don't see them doing it, but boy, oh boy, would that rile everything up and really be a head scratcher if they took Malik Willis. I think Christian would definitely have a strong opinion on that as well, because of the fact that Jared Goff's not the guy, but I think there's a lot of question marks that make Malik Willis a very controversial pick if the Lions make it at 2. Maybe if they trade down, if they get down to the Eagles and he drops to 16, maybe you could sell that even better. But at number 2, the best quarterback that you believe is on the board, you take him at number 2, I think it'd be too risky, and I don't think it's the right time. But plus, the fact that everybody talks about is Jared Goff and Brad Holmes seem to be close. I don't think that would be the move that would bond them closer together. You'd have Jared Goff a little bit more antsy. See, for me, I would do it in the hopes that Goff would turn into Aaron Rodgers and get all pissed off. And look what Rodgers did the last 2 years with Jordan Love. He got universally pissed. He got better. And he stuck it to the Packers and said, oh, you drafted a quarterback? Oh, hell no. I feel like Goff would in turn become a little bit on the other side, a lot more nervous, a lot more uncomfortable. And I feel like for him, he needs a little bit more of a Zen-like environment, and keeping Boyle and Blau was the way to do it. So I don't think you upset the apple cart. I think you make Goff worse by bringing in Malik Willis. Am I wrong, Christian? Would you be okay with that? Would you be like, whoa, we got something brewing here with Malik Willis on board?
Yeah, taking a quarterback at number 2, obviously it would be entertaining for all of about 5 seconds. Oh, we got a new quarterback, we got a new toy. And then you realize what it means to the overall scope of your franchise, and you start to think, oh, what are we doing here? Because with Willis, he's a project, could turn out to be a stud. I mean, the physical traits are there. He's got great speed. He's got a rocket for an arm. But his problem is he's just not ready right now. And to take a quarterback and kind of kick the can on all your needs down the road, unless you're going to make a move up to get into the teens and but even then, like even if you do try to trade up and get a better pick with that second pick at 32, it just doesn't make much sense. You got way more pressing needs. And John, you absolutely nailed it with Jared Goff. He does not strike me as somebody who sees competition and goes crazy and becomes this MVP caliber player. I think you kind of saw it at the beginning of the year last year. He was not necessarily that he's looking over his shoulder because Tim Boyle was hurt and David Blau's not taking his job, but you could tell he was uncomfortable. You could tell he was uncomfortable in Detroit. The fans weren't super. I mean, you read about every article put out by any media company, and it's all Jared Goff's just a stopgap quarterback. And it was very hard for him to find a rhythm. And then, Anthony Lynn kind of gets demoted and then fired, and Ben Johnson takes over. And I thought Jared Goff was fine. The second half, last quarter of the year, Jared Goff was fine. And, with his connection with St. Brown, you got him DJ Chark now. I think he deserves one more year. That contract gets a lot more team-friendly at the end of this year. And who knows, he might surprise you. So I would not waste number 2. If you see a quarterback you like at 32 and you want that 5th-year option, then by all means. I actually wouldn't hate that, as I would imagine some people on this call might. I would be okay with that. But not at 2. Not at 2, absolutely not at 2. And, like I said, it wouldn't help taking a quarterback in the first round, but if you want to get that extra year and just kind of set the boundaries of this is Jared Goff's team, then maybe it wouldn't matter as much. But if you get somebody at number 2, you're going to get him going in there like that dude in Draft Day with the Kevin Costner movie. He's going to be burning Brad Holmes' office and throwing things around. So I don't think that's going to happen. I certainly hope not.
Cuz, you on board? What do you think? You think Malik Willis because here's the thing. Here's the part that with any talk of a draft prospect that concerns.
Come on, spit shine this turd for me. Spit shine it. Let's go. Sell me.
Cuz, you guys are all hearing it. Who is being in the mix for the services of Malik Willis? The likes of the Steelers. Now, that's a different organization with a history of success that obviously could surround him with a lot more talent faster. But when you hear the Steelers like him, that kind of lets you say, well, are you passing on the next Lamar Jackson, but in the next 5 years? See, that's the problem you don't want to have, is you don't want to go and see, well, the Lions passed on Patrick Mahomes 3 and 4 times, and now look what he's done. And you passed on Tom Brady in the past, and look what he's become. Could Malik Willis come back to bite everybody in the ass and become like the next superstar in the league? And you had the chance to take it because you've passed on Justin Herbert. You've passed on the likes of players that could be productive in the past. Now, if you do that with Malik Willis, I'm going to be the first person, even though I wrote last night or earlier, don't take him. I'll be the one that's writing, why didn't you take him? That's not, it's his job not to. It's Brad Holmes' job to make sure Malik Willis doesn't become the next superstar, and you passed on him.
I mean, yeah, it could happen. I could also become the next Mike Valeni. Is it going to happen? No, it's not. Like, we all understand this, right? Like, it's just not in the cards. It's what you got dealt, and it's how it is. No, I don't think Malik Willis is going to somehow come into the league and set it on fire. If the Lions take a quarterback at number 2, just go to my Twitter and just follow it, because I will lose my mind. I will absolutely go bonkers. If they take a quarterback at 32, I will lose my mind. Because if you're going to take a quarterback, you might as well just took him at 2. What the hell you waiting on taking him at 32? Doesn't make any sense. You get the cream of the crop all the way at the top. So if you're going to do it, take him at 2. There should be no quarterbacks taken in this first round. And like, I've even softened on that because I said there should be no quarterbacks taken in this draft. So I've softened quite a bit on that. If they take a quarterback in this first round, I'm going to go absolutely bonkers. I don't think there's a quarterback in this draft that is worthy of being taken in the top 10, much less in the top 32. I don't like any of these quarterbacks, and they all have their own flaws. They all have their own issues. I do think one of them will turn around to be an actual serviceable NFL quarterback, but I'm not trying to risk it to get the biscuit. I'm just not taking a chance on that. What I will do is I will trade that 32nd pick. I will fall back. I will let another team like the Seattle Seahawks move up and use that draft pick to draft whomever it is that they want. As long as I'm getting a quarterback or as long as I'm getting a first round draft pick next year, I'm all about that action, because next year, just look at who you're going to have available. There are quarterbacks that are going to come into the league and possibly set it on fire next season. And I know we said that about this year's draft, and you look at what you got. Spencer Rattler was supposed to be the second coming of Jesus Christ, dressed up in a football helmet and throwing footballs all around the field. And it didn't work out that way. But I feel much more confident with the guys coming out next year, and you can package some picks, move up, and get the guy that you actually want. And we talk about this, right? The NFL has evolved. It has changed. And there's a way to build your football team now. And you've kind of seen it. Like, look at Cincinnati. Look at what Cincinnati did. Cincinnati was able to put pieces together, and then they were able to stumble upon their quarterback with Joe Burrow. And they had the chance to move back from one and pick up a plethora of draft picks because everybody wanted Joe Burrow because they knew he was the top dog. And they held true to it. They drafted Joe Burrow, and they got to the Super Bowl. And they were within, 45 seconds from winning the Super Bowl last year, and they just ended up losing. You build your team, go get your quarterback, hold on to your quarterback for 5 years, and then you work on restructuring contracts down the field. Like you guys talked about it earlier. I think it was Christian who said, like, kicking the can down the field with other needs. If that's what you're going to do, I think you're setting your team up for failure. I think you're setting yourself up for basically being the Lions forever, for eternity. Build your team, get your guys, get your impactful defensive end, get your corners, your safeties, get your wide receivers, get your running backs, get your offensive line. The one thing we can all say is this offensive line looks pretty good. It's pretty set. You've got an offensive line, so you can plug a quarterback in the future once you get the other pieces to have a really good football team to really take this whole thing to that next level. It's just wait and see. You got to pause. Don't go and go all in and draft a quarterback that might work out. I would feel much better about anybody coming out next year than I do about anybody in this year's draft.
Vito, what say you?
Well, real quick, I think it's blasphemy here, Adam, what you're saying about the QBs. Well, not totally, but I'll say this about Malik Willis. At number 32... Is
this you fence-sitting again?
I would take Willis at number 32 if he's there, potentially. I think he's a first-round talent. He's just not a number 2 overall pick. He's not a top 10 talent. He might not even be a top 15, top 16 talent. But end of the first round, you can make the argument it's worth it to pick up. He's a dual-threat QB, and I know he's raw. He needs his seasoning, needs a year of development, learning behind somebody like Jared Goff. But at number 32, that's where you take a guy like that. I think if you believe once again that he can become that franchise passer at the next level.
Let me argue this.
Yes.
Let me argue you this.
Yes.
What would help this team more? That quarterback who's going to have to sit for at least a season because he's going to sit behind Jared Goff, or would a impactful safety, an impactful linebacker, or an impactful wide receiver help this team more? Because I think any one of those three positions that you could get at 32 would help this team more, not just next season, but in the future going forward.
Well, I think for sure next season. And here's the thing. I'm all for defense first. It should be a defensive-heavy approach. And I've talked about it at SL Lines. It was a beautiful article. I know you all read it, too, about how many defensive players the Lions should select in this year's NFL draft.
I think I gave you a retweet on it. It was really
I said
good.
At least 5, man. You retweeted it, Adam. Thank you for that. John, I don't think you did. Give me some love here maybe once in a while. But I say 5 defensive players at least in this year's draft. So, no, I'm all for defense at number 2, number 32. I'm saying you can make the argument where Willis being taken at number 32 isn't the worst thing in the world. And I wouldn't say it's the worst case scenario for the Lions at number 32. Now, at number 2, in another article that I eloquently wrote for SIO Lions earlier today, on Wednesday this week, I wrote about the worst case scenario for the Lions at number 2. And I said the Liberty product in Malik Willis, because that would be an overreach. And here's the thing, too. I say it wouldn't be too bad to take him at number 32, that second first-round pick for the Lions. But somebody's going to reach for him. Somebody's going to overvalue him or another quarterback just because they play that QB position. So it's ridiculous how that happens, but it's a yearly tradition in the NFL. One franchise will reach for an NFL QB. And I think Willis will be that guy in this year's draft, just not at number 2 for the Lions. And one other quick thing here, John. You had made the mention that, maybe you can go edge, later in the draft, let's say. And there is a little bit of validity to that, too, because of the depth at that position, where there isn't the depth at the QB position. So maybe that's why somebody that I think is rather stupid would make the argument that, you can take Willis at number 2 and get that edge rusher later in the draft, later in the first round, let's say. Jermaine Johnson out of Florida State in the mid-first round. David Ojabo, late first round. So I guess somebody could say that. But also, if you're saying that, draft Malik Willis because that will lengthen the rebuild or give Holmes and Campbell more time to do the rebuild, that's a loser's mentality. You talked about that, Adam. I mean, that's a straight-up loser's mentality for the Lions. It just speaks volumes about the Lions franchise then. If they were to take Willis or any QB at number 2, just because he's got to sit for a year, learn behind Goff, and because it lengthens your rebuild. I mean, that's stupid. Think about it, and that could be somebody's argument. That's a loser's mentality.
Wait. Remember, it wouldn't be the first time. Remember, Dan Campbell's got a 6-year deal. Brad Holmes got a 5-year deal. All they got to do is sell. They could have already said this to Sheila. Now the new
Sheila will believe it. Here's the thing. I think Sheila will believe it. That's
all
the
you got to say. It's not that hard to sell it. You say, we believe this is a 4 to 5 year rebuild, with year 4 and 5 being when we're going to compete. I mean, that could have been said so easily. And then you say, okay, now we got a quarterback. This gets us into year 4 and 5. That is the best way to extend and get paid on your contract is to extend this out. In the National Football League, what pressure is there on the Lions to win? People are talking about them. 9 different entities cover them. The stadium is somewhat full still.
But time out. That's that old Lions logic. That's SOL.
Yeah.
So you're saying it's all right to lose for 4 or 5 more years? I mean, that's not expediting or helping out. It's not helping out the rebuild process. It should be about winning by the 4th year or the 5th year, right? Maybe the 3rd year.
This was the year with the most player movement in the history of the National Football League, and you went back to your old guys. I could make the argument you spend on 2 players, maybe a Russell Wilson and a Deebo Samuel, you're in the playoffs this year. If you maneuver it and you cut the likes of your guard and you cut another player, you could free up $10 million in salary cap, and you add a player or somebody a little bit higher caliber than DJ Chark. I can make the argument if they were more aggressive, if they said, we want to have this to be a 2-year rebuild, boom, get in the playoffs now, then you could have made more moves. So it's not like, look, it's not going to be overtly said that that's what we're doing. But remember, Brad Holmes said this is a multi-year process-driven rebuild. So they're taking their sweet-ass time. And I'm just fascinated to see if the quarterback is the final piece. I just don't see it being Malik Willis. I'm curious, Cameron, your thoughts on Willis. And would you think maybe the likes of a Desmond Ritter would be the quarterback? I know I read his Players Tribune piece. He's come out and kind of shown a little swagger saying he's the best guy. I think he ends up being one of the best in this class, but the other is going to be Sam Howell. I'm hoping, my fingers are going to be crossed, and the thing we'll talk about is that 32, that spot might be the target for teams to move up to the Lions and take a quarterback because of that 5th-year option. So I hope that's the case, and we'll talk about the trade possibilities here after this. But do you think Malik Willis would have a chance to come back and burn the Lions, or is there another player that you say, I wouldn't be totally devastated if they took at 32?
Yeah, it's hard to say because I agree with Adam. I don't really love any of the quarterbacks in this draft. Honestly, I'm just not huge on Desmond Ritter, on like a Kenny Pickett. I don't know. I feel like the Lions have other needs that are more pressing. And if they do end up keeping that pick at 32, you're going to see them take somebody that's not a quarterback. And then, just echoing again what everybody else has said, if we see Malik Willis somehow go at number 2, that's just going to be outrageous. And there will be, very unhappy fans and a lot of riots. So I don't know. I think if it comes down to it, the Lions are not going to grab a quarterback, specifically Ritter at that late first round pick.
All right.
Well,
Cameron,
you know what, John?
Mm-hmm.
John, real quick, if they select, Willis, they can just say, hey, 2 more years of losing, 3 more years of losing. Hey, baby, let's have a parade for that. Another 2 years, and another 2 years of the rebuild, baby. Another 3 years. I just want to get a good laugh out of that again. It's funny. I think it's really funny.
Listen, I think the rebuild is looking at success to be in year 3 and 4, whereas everybody here wants it to be in year 2. Like we all saw what they did in free agency. They went out and did nothing of significance. And you think out of these 8 picks, 5 of them are actually going to pan out? I could see 3 or 4.
Wait,
but yeah,
I'm going to pause you. I want them to suck next year. I want them to suck so bad they're drafting again in the top 2. I want them to
happening.
suck that bad.
It's not happening.
1 more year.
It's not happening.
All right. Not multiple years. 1 more year is right. I agree with you, Adam.
1 more year. One more year.
Uno más. Por favor. Uno más.
If I'm the Lions, do I want to commit my time and resources to developing a quarterback, or do I want to get a quarterback that's going to be ready next year? Or, and this is in the rearview mirror, obviously. If we were going to get a quarterback, why did we not get one last year? You know what I mean? When there were better options. And so
good call.
I just feel like if Willis is around, it's just not going to be a favorable move. And then, like I said, too, those other guys I just don't feel like there's going to be that high impact quarterback or high impact guy like the Lions are really going to be targeting.
All right, I'll go to you, Cameron. Trades. How aggressive could you see the Lions being? Our final topic before we get into our first round mock draft here at the SI All Lions Detroit Sports Podcast panel. I am curious, do you see more of a likelihood that the Lions trade down from number 2, trade down from 32, or the scenario in which is starting to creep in my mind is you stay at number 2 and you stay at 32, but you potentially package 34 and other picks maybe next year or in this year's draft and take maybe a third impactful player, which would cause one of the biggest nightmares for me and writing all that content if there was a third first round player. But there's a potential because you need 2 players on defense. And could you fall in love with a wide receiver at 14, at 15, and go and get an impactful wide receiver? I don't know. You could make that argument, or you could say that Brad Holmes could decide to take another wideout later in a deep draft class at wideout. What scenario do you see in regards to the Lions potentially making a trade?
Yeah, I think if I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, I think the Lions will stay put. I think they'll keep 2. I think they'll keep 32. If they were to make a trade, it's more likely that they move on from 32. I know the Seahawks are kind of interested in that pick, but I think, by and large, they're going to keep 2. They're going to keep 32. Your point is interesting because it begs the question: if there's a wide receiver there in the middle of the round in the teens, like I know they like a guy like Drake London. If he's there, do you get him? And I know wideout is kind of a need for the Lions. I mean, you can't put all your eggs in one basket with a guy like Amon-Ra St. Brown. So it'll be interesting to see how they proceed. But if I had to give you my safe answer, I think they're going to stay put. That's my pick. But I'm really curious to hear what you guys have to say.
Go ahead, Christian. What do you got? What do you think about trades? What's best option? I don't see number 2 having any value for anybody. I think everybody knows the chessboard and how it's going to work out. And it makes no sense because the Lions don't need a quarterback. There's not a player that you can't get at defensive end at 4 that you're desperate to move up. So the Lions are locked pretty much at number 2. It's the number 32 pick that potentially is the one that could draw the most interest, or the Lions could move back in and trade 32, 34. The way the trade value chart works, for those who don't know, 32 and 34 could get the Lions as high as number 14 if they wanted to move up that high. And maybe the scenario that I think also could play out is if one said Kyle Hamilton falls. If his name, because of his speed, if the talk about that shitty 40 time that he had just starts to bring him down, you're sitting there 14 and Kyle Hamilton's there, I could see, because Brad Holmes said if there are players that we like and we want, we'll be aggressive. I don't know exactly how that would shake out, what the vibe would be if you get a Thibodeau and a Hamilton at 2 and 14 and you forego 32 and 34. That's not a bad move, though, if you get Hamilton at number 14. In my mind, I think that fills a need, and you get a player that potentially has a lot of opportunity to be successful. But Christian, I'm curious your thoughts on trades and what have you kind of formulated as maybe the best option for the Lions?
Well, I have kind of a crazy idea. I like the idea of trying to go after Deebo Samuel. And you may think I'm crazy for this, but
nothing wrong with that.
The way I look at it, you got to take a look at that number 32 overall pick and that number 34 overall pick. And what players are you going to draft that are going to be as productive as Deebo Samuel? I mean, you have to take a look at, if you get a wide receiver at 34 and a safety at 32, you have to just imagine, okay, is their combined value for me this year going to help us more or help us win more than Deebo Samuel? And are they going to help us more down the road? I mean, you have to do that math. And in my mind, I think that would be a great move. Now, do I think that would be all it would take to get Deebo Samuel? No. And I think kind of usually I don't really agree with Mike Valenti, but when he proposed this the other day, when we were listening to his show, I was like, yes, absolutely. But unfortunately, I don't think that's going to be enough. And in that case, I'm fine with staying put. If somebody wants to come get a quarterback at 32, that's fine. Also, I wouldn't be opposed. Imagine telling somebody at the beginning of this draft cycle that the Lions could walk away with Kayvon Thibodeau and Kyle Hamilton. Say that before the combine when he was started to fall. I mean, people would be going crazy. So yeah, I'd love that. But I think push comes to shove tomorrow night. This time tomorrow night, they just stay put.
I agree.
Samuel.
Actually,
can't go wrong with Deebo Samuel.
Deebo Samuel's an intriguing player. I don't mean to jump in, but he's an intriguing player. I think that would be a really good move. If they could somehow swing that, I would be all for it. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, crazy, but it's not going to happen because it's the Detroit Lions. They're not going to make the move.
Right.
But I would love
right.
it. I think we would all love it. I mean, come on, Deebo Samuel, man, can be a running back, wide receiver, fleet of foot, speedster, you name it, can beat a defense down the field, can do it all offensively. And the Lions could badly use that on offense where they don't need a ton of positional help, but right there at receiver, oh my God, trust me, the impact he could have on that offense would be immense. So would love to see it happen, but in terms of trading a pick right now, I don't see it really happening either, especially at number 2. It's not going to happen. You can guarantee that. Number 32, because of what John has said and what you all have said thus far already too regarding that pick and the value it carries, with that 5th-year option in play, right? For the first round, right, number 32, can take a quarterback, develop him, have him for that extra year. Maybe my man Malik Willis once again. Okay, Malik could be there. But any QB, right? I mean, Desmond Ritter's been mocked a lot to the Lions. So maybe a trade teams up, gets that QB at number 32. So there is value there at number 32. I think the Lions could trade that pick, but they're not trading the number 2 overall selection.
All right, Adam, you got to be the voice of reason here. I still don't know why there's more. There hasn't been more noise regarding Deebo Samuel. It feels like the right situation that would just simply make everything better. Amon-Ra's better. Josh Reynolds is going to be a little bit more open. You get DJ Chark, roaming around out there with a Deebo Samuel. You just tell him, hey, Deebo, you don't have to run. We got 3. We got 5. We potentially have 6 running backs on this roster. Come in and be Deebo Samuel. So impactful. Such a player. I know that contract is huge, but I don't feel like you wouldn't get a lot back in return for having that type of player. It just stinks that that buzz maybe is not as high as it is with Brad Holmes and company. Maybe the cost is too high. I don't think that, I would presume the 49ers would say, okay, we want number 2. And they're like, no, we're not doing that. So we'll see if that blockbuster trade happens in regards with the Lions and Deebo Samuel. I don't see it either, but I would sense too that the Lions are scared because they got a really productive player in Amon-Ra St. Brown on a cheap deal. If they could get 2 wide receivers in this draft, they could potentially see that same production, and they're paying $10 million to Chark, so they don't see the need to go out and make a splashy signing. It's different in football. I could see where the likes of teams wanting to build through the draft. I just see this. I sense that nobody's really confident that that's going to get us there faster because the miss rate is so high. But I'm curious your thoughts on what Christian said about Deebo Samuel and how aggressive is Brad Holmes going to be? Is he going to be wheeling, dealing, making multiple trades up, down? I think maybe on Friday and Saturday, pay attention to that. But day one, I'm curious what your thoughts on trades. Where can we get some action here on day one?
So as far as Deebo Samuel goes, I think if the Lions situation was a year or two further along, it would probably make more sense. I think where they're at right now, they have just too many pieces that need to be filled on the defensive side of the ball. I feel like that big play wide receiver, that impactful wide receiver is kind of like that finishing piece. Like you've already got your quarterback. He just needs that guy. He needs that dog. So you go out and you get that dog in Deebo Samuel. And I think the Lions are probably a year or two away from being at that point. So I don't think that's why that trade happens. I don't think that's why that takes place. When you have the ability to possibly draft 3 of the top 35 players in this draft, I think you hold on to those pieces and you try to allocate those resources. Now, as far as trades go, I don't think anything's happening at 2. I think the Lions are staying at 2. The only thing I could see happening early in this draft is if for some reason the New York Jets absolutely fall in love with a guy and they want to flip-flop you 4 for 2. That's the only way I see that happening. It's the only way I see anything going on there. Now, I think there will be some movement late in this draft, though. I can see the Lions moving out of the 32nd spot. I can see them giving that pick away to somebody to either fall back and get more picks in the second round, pick up a pick next year in the first round, possibly pick up more picks later on in day 2. I feel like there's a ton of possibilities with that 32nd pick. And it's just because, like we kind of talked about, if there's a quarterback out there that you want to take a chance on, you'll be able to get them late because I see maybe 2 quarterbacks going in the first round. So if there's a guy out there that you want that's still on the board, you go get him. You have that 5th year option on him. Or there's a really impactful edge rusher from Michigan who was early on in this whole process was slated to go somewhere in the top 10, top 15, blew out his knee. And you can go grab him, have that 5th year option so he can basically sit the entire year in rehab. And then you can bring him back and have 4 productive years from him and David Ojabo. So I could see the Lions moving that second pick in the first round. And I think you're right. When it comes to day 2 and day 3, I can see Brad Holmes just moving up and down the draft board, just kind of wheeling and dealing. I think there's going to be a ton of trades, though. I think this draft is going to be absolute madness. I think it's going to be nuts with everybody just moving around, and just because of how this draft is laid out, there's like not that one guy. That's the one cool thing about this draft. There's not like one guy who you're like, that's the guy. I mean, we just had an argument for 30 some odd minutes about who the Lions should take at 2. And we all kind of agree that they're okay if they go with Hutchinson or they go with Thibodeau, you know? So like, it's a really weird draft where there's a lot of depth, but there's not like an absolute stud out there. So I think there'll be a lot of jockeying for position, trying to grab a couple of guys.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it. Make sure you stay tuned to @Detroit Podcast, the Detroit Sports Podcast Network, as we rant and rave all throughout the Detroit Lions draft process. Stay tuned to SI All Lions as well, as the great Christian Vito contribute to all the coverage and bring you all the news and happenings over the next 3 days. It's fun, man. I don't know. Unlike some, I'm definitely checking out all the mock drafts. I'm excited to check out the way too early mock draft that could come out Sunday and Monday. I'm excited to see how this is all going to shake out. And now we're finally going to see what's going to happen, how this shakes out. I think everybody's on board with Brad Holmes being able to at least find 4 to 5 players that are going to come in and have the opportunity to contribute to get this Lions team a lot more victories. And I think that Brad Holmes has earned that. He's earned that credibility by the likes of drafting Amon-Ra St. Brown, getting a lot of value. So we'll see what happens. I do, like I said, I think most of us, the panel here, believes it's going to be a defensive end, and I can't wait to see it. First pick, guys, around 8:15, 8:20 tomorrow. Sit down, ready, get your cameras rolling. man, just for content alone, I'd love to see them take Malik, see Adam flip his shit, or Ahmad Gardner, or some crazy name that we've never talked about. Could you imagine they end up taking someone that has been just totally off the board? Kyle Hamilton. Could they shock the world and try to sell bullshit and try to sell Kyle Hamilton at number 2, a safety, or Ahmad Gardner? Sauce, taking someone named Sauce at number 2. I can't wait to see it. Maybe someone here will be crazy enough to mock Sauce Gardner to number 2 for the Lions. But let's get into it. One of the favorite parts of our panel. We get after it. 32 picks. Each of us here at the panel have been assigned 4 or 5 teams, and the draft is now open. The Detroit Sports Podcast, first round mock draft, second volume, our second edition, kicks off with Adam taking the main stage. Adam's not unfamiliar with stages. Taking the stage to pick number 1 for the Jaguars is Adam the Jock Straczynski. Who they taking?
As the pick is in and I'm in a G-string, walking up to the microphone.
Beautiful sight.
It's sexy, bro.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So this is like the super Trent Baalke pick, right? Like he loves freak athletes, loves guys who just test off the charts. It's Trayvon Walker. That's the first pick of the 2022 NFL draft.
Okay. Now, there's a strategic reason why I put myself at number 2. There is no way in hell I'm going to say the name Aiden Hutchinson coming out of my mouth. That's why that's why we had 5 different people write 5 different mock drafts this week. As a little teaser, the Fan Nation mock draft had Aiden Hutchinson go 1, so I was blessed to be able to write Kayvon Thibodeau. But you just have to go with the basic bottom line here. There is a legitimate concern about the short arms of Aiden Hutchinson. The general concern that Hutchinson is safe and cannot be worthy of that selection. I think the Lions, when Brad Holmes goes out and personally visits, that has value, guys. Remember, Brad Holmes got his ass on a plane and flew to Oregon. What to confirm what? He went out there to get his final signature so that he can pass on the overrated Aiden Hutchinson. So the number 2 pick for the Detroit Lions, I think the odds are going to be 70-30 that this happens. Kayvon Thibodeau is the number 2 pick for the Detroit Lions. Pass on Aiden Hutchinson, who will end up being a big disappointment for all you guys in Metro Detroit. Bring on Kayvon. Bring me the hype. Bring me the noise. Bring me the swagger. Look, guys, swagger attracts swagger. And Kayvon rocking that jewelry that he's got, I'm all aboard that train. I'm all aboard the swagger train. Kayvon Thibodeau, number 2. Vito, number 3.
First, really quick, John has swagger. Adam, when did John ever get swagger on his site too? Come on, man. I mean,
he tried buying it off of Amazon.
Yeah, right.
He has to buy it from somebody because he doesn't have it naturally. He doesn't possess it himself. Yeah, I know that's true. But no, I mean, and then he says he's blessed to take it, guy. I mean, what does that mean? Blessed, whatever. I never heard of that before. But at number 3, by the way, I put my glasses on because now I'm going to be smarter that way, right? It sounds smarter by having the glasses on as I take the podium for number 3.
Well, you look smarter.
Hey, yeah. I got to be smarter. So I'm going to say with the number 3 overall selection, the Houston Texans select offensive tackle Ikem Ekwonu out of NC State. I just think it's a smart move for the Texans. He's been mocked to the Texans by a lot of pundits already. And you know what? They don't really have a true QB there now. Deshaun Watson's gone, obviously was traded to the Browns. But you build the lineup. You kind of build that team, that roster up first. As Adam was saying, kind of the way of building a franchise. I think more and more is going to happen nowadays. And the Texans actually take a smart approach here. And they haven't been the smartest in recent memory. But, hey, they changed their tune. They go smart, and they take Ekwonu at number 3 overall.
Nice. Christian, number 4.
Wow. I was not expecting Ekwonu to go 3. So now this leaves me with 2 options. I can I've got my New York Jets hat on, and I've, Adam mentioned doing his research. I too read the tea leaves a little bit on the Jets, and Aiden Hutchinson, the presumed number 1 pick, is still here, but I'm gonna go with the sticky note, Jermaine Johnson, no matter what. I read a report today from Ian Rappaport. I know the Athletics' Dane Brugler was on it. The Jets love Jermaine Johnson. And at this stage, the Jets might be able to get him at the 10th pick with the way this is falling, but I'm not picking for the Jets at number 10. I'm picking for him at number 4, and I want my guy. Give me Jermaine Johnson at number 4.
All right, Cameron, you're up.
Crazy. Hutchinson is sliding already.
Hutchinson sliding. I'm shocked. I'm shocked.
I just want to throw this out there. This is outrageous because there's no way that Hutchinson falls to number 5. Like, it's not happening. So, I mean, I have to take him here. That's not who I was going to go with, but there's no way that he falls this far. So, I mean, the Jets, here we are, number 5. So, or I'm sorry, not the Jets, the Giants at number 5. I'm going Hutchinson. Just purely to get him off the board.
Listen, Cameron, you've covered now the draft now. You've seen what's going on. You've heard our videos. You've heard us rant and rave. Shit happens. That surprises people. But don't be surprised if Aiden Hutchinson and his short arms drop. I mean, he was starting off as number 1. Now he dropped a little bit.
I just don't see him falling out of the top 5. I mean, it's just I'll be beside myself. You'll need to follow my Twitter and look at me go bonkers if that happens. So
all right, cuz the Panthers are on the board, number 6.
All right, there's a lot the Panthers can do here. I think that they are going to be in the Jimmy Garoppolo, Baker Mayfield sweepstakes. So I think quarterback comes off the board because I can see them trading on day 2 for that quarterback, whether it's Jimmy G or it's Baker Mayfield. Because of that, they're going to go offensive tackle and take Evan Neal out of Alabama.
Nice. For number 7, I got the Giants. New defensive coordinator Don Martindale wants to play man-to-man. So you are going to need a talented individual. You need a playmaker. You need somebody that is going to handle business, and that is going to be Ahmad Sauce Gardner.
Man, you get the Sauce at number 7, the pride of Detroit King High.
I think that's
a pretty good pick.
A guy that has gives up no touchdowns is going to be coveted. The Giants, I think, want to handle business, and I think they'll make him a top 10 selection. I think Sauce is going top 10, but hopefully not top 3.
Just for the record, this is who I was going to go with. This was my pick at 5. So
okay.
I mean, they still get them.
You get short arm Aiden Hutchinson. Short arm, you need help with short arms or needs a lesson about the Aiden. You can talk to me too, by the way. But let's go to number 8.
Giants still get their guy 2 picks later, so I'm not mad about it.
Works out. Number 8, the Atlanta Falcons. I have the Falcons selecting wide receiver Garrett Wilson. Is he their next Julio Jones? This guy has been mocked to them left and right lately, was a stud at Ohio State. The Big Ten knew about that real bad, didn't they, about how good Wilson was and Chris Olave. But Wilson is my pick at number 8 to the Atlanta Falcons.
All right, Christian, number 9.
Yeah, I'm going to go corner here. I'm going to go Derek Stingley from LSU for Seattle. He's another one that was lights out as a freshman at LSU, one of the best corners in the country. And as is the case, you kind of get prospect fatigue, as well as the fact that, when you're going to school every day and you've already been an All-American, it can be difficult to. I, of course, would know, right? Because I've been an All-American, so I can talk about like that with authority. But no, he's still. I think he's kind of one of the person who suffers from kind of that prospect fatigue. I think he's going to be a really good player.
All right, one of my favorite teams, just simply because they have a Middle Eastern head coach, the New York Jets. Man, it's going to be fun. I got to find a way maybe to get out there when it's the Lions and the Jets, the Meathead Bowl, Saleh versus Campbell coming up in 2022. I can't wait. Cameron, number 10, New York Jets.
Number 10. This one's tough, but I'm going to go wide receiver Drake London here. I think that this is a good fit. I know the Lions are high on London, so this could be, like we talked about, this could be a little bit potential room for a trade, but that's my pick at 10, Drake London.
Look, man, some high-ranking personnel, television personalities, and pundits have Drake London going to the Jets. Listen, guys, mock drafts are just that. They're pure entertainment. It allows us to play GM. So you don't have to cow down or feel insecure about your pick. That's a great pick. Drake London, you got to get Zach Wilson help. A big, tall receiver. That ankle injury potentially could be a problem. Own that pick, baby. I love it. Now, cuz you get the Washington Commanders at number 11.
The Washington Foot Soldiers. Now, look, wide receiver is a need. There's a ton of wide receivers in this draft, so I think you can put that one back a little bit, and you can come back in one of the later rounds, pick that up. Cornerback, safety, interior offensive line leads me to this, right? You're looking at best player available, and you're trying to address a position of need here. Kyle Hamilton's still out there from Notre Dame, safety. You also have Zion Johnson out of Boston College, interior offensive lineman. So you can go a couple of different ways here. You got a defensive-minded head coach, so I think he's going to put a premium on defense over offense all the time. So I'm going to go Kyle Hamilton out of Notre Dame for the Washington Foot Commanders.
I think that helps Rivera a lot. I think that might be a player that might have a good fit there. We'll see if the Commanders are still owned by their owner, who every week is doing some shady-ass shit. So we'll see if he's still the owner by the time that selection is made. 12, the Vikings. I think that they're going to try to potentially look for Adam Thielen's replacement in a couple years, and I think they gamble a little bit. I think Jamison Williams is a wide receiver that I think, even though he was injured, has a lot of people wondering what he can do, and I think he would give the Vikings a very, very potent potential offense to help Kirk Cousins end that contract. So with the 12th pick, Jamison Williams. 13, Vito, Houston Texans.
Well, I mean, you guys are taking my picks left and right, and I'm not a qualified GM. I'm not smart even with these glasses on, so it's really tough for me now. But as I dig through my draft board,
Wait, Vito. Your pick might just as be as good as the Houston Texans pick. I mean, they're not known for
anyways, right? Yeah, right. They're not competent. They're inadequate too, like me. So there we go.
I might even send them the film. They might even take your advice. You know, they're like, you look smart. He looks smart. Some guy named Vito from Detroit. He looks smart.
Hey, at least I look smart, right? There we go. I got something going for me. I appreciate that, by the way, too. But I think the Texans here take a cornerback, and Andrew Booth Jr. out of Clemson. Might be a surprising pick, maybe a bit of a reach, but hey, I have the right to take a reach when I'm doing a mock draft. I'm not the real, totally qualified GM of the Texans. So I'm taking Booth, and because you know what? Texans really could use help all across the field on both sides of the football. So why not take Booth? So I'm taking
that might be the most
right
Texans pick ever, Vito.
Right, it probably would be. Well, hey, you took Hamilton before me. I wanted Hamilton, and then I wanted Williams, Jamison Williams. Well, who am I going to take? Andrew Booth. There you go. Andrew Booth, right. Babe. Number 13.
Number 14.
Yeah, Jordan Davis just makes too much sense for the Baltimore Ravens. Super athletic, can run all up and over the field. He's just an incredible athlete. Very good player at Georgia. He's going to be a very good player in the NFL. And, he'll be terrorizing quarterbacks for the next decade. Harbaugh, the other Harbaugh, will get that boy right. And Jordan Davis is going to be a very good player for the Ravens.
All right, Cameron, number 15, the Eagles making moves.
Number 15 at the Philadelphia Eagles. This one hurts to say because it's an Ohio State guy, but give me Chris Olave, the wide receiver. It just seems like it's a okay fit. And so, again, like Vito said, you guys are kind of taking my picks here. So that's what I got for you at 15.
Absolutely. You guys you're killing. You did your research. I'm very proud that you took this seriously, and it makes me feel good because you're on board, guys. These are needs that have been identified and are where I think Chris Olave is going to be slotted. Maybe even the Lions may come a calling. I don't know if that's the player they would go for if they're, but pay attention to that spot around the 9:30 spot in the draft. All right, cuz you're on the clock with number 16.
So a couple of different things that the Saints can do here. Now, if I was the GM of the Saints and I had picks at 16 and 19, I'd play this a little bit different, but I don't. I have a pick at 16, and I think this could possibly happen. And the reason I say this could possibly happen, if you look at this quarterback and you compare him to the previous quarterback that was in this town, in this city, similar stature, not very tall. This one happens to have an arm that's a cannon. The other quarterback necessarily did not. They do need a quarterback because right now it is King Jameson, and I just don't think he's very good. So I'm going to go quarterback Malik Willis to the Orleans Saints.
Nice. Off the board there. The Chargers, man, the AFC West is loaded. I mean, look at the quarterbacks out there in the AFC West. I might just watch that division separately from the rest of the league because of what they got going on. The Chargers got to figure out a way to take care of business, so they're going to take Trent McDuffie at number 17. Vito, 18, second pick for the Eagles.
Good God, you took another one of my players. Luckily, I did my homework here. All right, so I am going to take now interior defensive lineman Devonta Wyatt out of Georgia. Another stud Georgia defender. You can't go wrong with Georgia defenders. I also like Nakobe Dean. I like Lewis Sine. I can go on and on with all the Georgia guys I like, but I'm taking Devonta Wyatt here at number 18 for the Eagles.
Christian, 19.
Yeah, shout out to Adam. I'm picking for the Saints. I would have taken Malik Willis had he made it here. But you know what, Adam, you took the quarterback. I'm going to get you some help up front. Charles Cross from Mississippi State, somehow still on the board. And I'm running to the podium with this one. Offensive tackle at Mississippi State could be a top 10 pick this or tomorrow, I guess now. But yeah, Charles Cross, love it. He's going to be a very good tandem with Kenny Pickett, and that Saints can feel good about this draft so far.
I love that pick, by the way. That's who I wanted to take, but I knew I'd had to take the quarterback. So good job.
Yeah, look at you guys pairing each other up, helping Malik Willis with an offensive lineman. Hey, look at that. Some smart GM work here across the podcast network. All right, Cameron, the Steelers, what do they do at number 20?
Yeah, I'm torn between two guys here, wide receiver Traylon Burks and linebacker Quay Walker. I'm gonna go Walker here. I'm gonna go Quay Walker with number 20 to the Steelers.
Okay, good call. Maybe even potentially an opportunity for the Lions if he's there at 32. Good call. Steelers always find a way to make. Listen, is there a team really that's out there that you give the more confidence to than the Steelers? My goodness, they just whoever they pick, okay, they've been minted because the Steelers went out there and got him. And Quay Walker, oh man, would be a nice addition. All right, cuz you get number 21, the Patriots, with new offensive mastermind Matt Patricia, by the way.
Yeah, should be interesting, right? This team needs a little bit of linebacker help, little interior offensive line help. Man, it really is kind of weird because of what is supposed to be the best player available at this point is Zion Johnson, interior offensive lineman. I think it's a fit. I think it works. I think it helps your future offensive coordinator in Matt Patricia, offensive guru, the rocket scientist.
Oh, interesting. Passing on Devin Lloyd there. Okay, very good.
Love it. It's a Boston, New England connection.
Yeah. 22 is the Green Bay Packers. Now, one of their two first rounders. I would assume and presume they're going to probably potentially land a wide receiver at this spot. But at the same time, I think that they're going to invest in an offensive lineman here. Now, quick funny story here. I said, hey, Christian, get me the big time story of Bernard Raymond. Tell me what's going on with him. What's going on with this big dude and his story? And he's like, sorry, John, I work for you, so that means Central ain't going to give me shit. They ain't going to tell me where he's at. They're not going to give me no coverage. They're not going to tell me anything about what he likes, any visits, other than he went to the pro day that Christian got to sit way in the back. So they had the Athletic in the first row, all the newspapers, and they said, okay, Christian, we'll let you in, but you got to sit way in the back with your binoculars. So we couldn't get a sense of the workout. So, and quick funny story, when Bernard was done with his workout, they escorted Christian out of the way and said, look, you can't be in the same presence as this potential first round pick. So we didn't get no extra added coverage at SI Alliance from a Central Michigan reporter, but the Packers will get a talented player and a former tight end, nimble athlete, really quality. I did watch his film because I am not crazy enough to even wish and hope the Lions go crazy and bolster their offensive line maybe at 34, but he's not falling. Bernard's going to the Packers at 22. All right, 23, Christian. You can make up for it later in your career. You're still early, but that was funny to me.
So I've got the number 23 by the way, too.
Yep.
And I got to take a player from one of your favorite squads, from your favorite squad in Michigan, okay? Edge defender David Ojabo is going at number 23. Is this another reach made by me? It might be like the Andrew Booth pick. It's not as bad as a Booth pick. It's not, though. Because Ojabo, I think Adam brought it up earlier. Before his injury, where would he have been taken? top 15. So I don't think it's really a reach at number 23. Now with the injury, sure, maybe a late first rounder, as in number 32 or early second. But I think number 23, why not take an edge defender? And the Cardinals here take David Ojabo out of U of M.
Ooh, Christian gets the Cowboys 24. Always a spectacular scene there, especially in Vegas. Oh, man. Do they have one of their esteemed alumni making the picks, riling up the Vegas people? I can't wait to see it. 24, you're on the clock.
Yeah, so I'm stuck between two here. Two names one name I've heard that the Cowboys really like. That's Arnold Ebiketie, the edge defender from Penn State. And then the other one is Trevor Penning. Trevor Penning is a guy who has slid a little bit. He's a mean mamma jamma, can come in and play tackle right away. They don't necessarily need him to. But in looking at this, you got George Karlaftis. But I'm going to go Arnold Ebiketie here out of Penn State, the edge defender, transfer from Temple. I think that he's kind of somebody who slid a little bit under the radar, but he's going to be a very good player.
25, Cameron.
Yeah, so this is an interesting pick for me. On paper here, I have Desmond Ritter at 25 going to the Bills, which, this is kind of like a project guy. He's obviously going to take a backseat to Josh Allen. So again, I don't love this pick because you guys are stealing all my guys, but you know what? I'm gonna own this one. So I'll go here.
Okay, Desmond Ritter, number 25. Interesting. Might cause a little bit of ruffles in Buffalo, but we'll see how that would shake out. Cause you get 26, the Titans.
I feel like this is a bit of a no-brainer. The fact that Devin Lloyd's still here, I think he is swooped up immediately by Tennessee.
Okay, and then I think that knowing that potentially at 27, the Bucks could use help along that defense. They may go offense as well. You have Tom Brady coming back. You have a new head coach, but the new head coach is more defensive minded. So with that, I think they maybe discover the fact that a player has dropped and they go best available, maybe not addressing a need. They go George Karlaftis at number 27 to the Tampa Bay Bucks. Vito, 28.
Rodgers gets his new best friend. That is the Green Bay Packers on the clock here, number 28. They get Jahan Dotson out of Penn State, the Packers' new number one wideout. Maybe not of this year right away, but in 2023 and beyond, Dotson is their man. Stretch the defense, do it all, be the number one wideout in Green Bay.
29, Christian.
Yeah, my Central Michigan brethren are really going to get mad at me for this one, but staring down the barrel at number 29, I am going to take Skye Moore, the wide receiver from Western Michigan, that school in Kalamazoo. And the reason for it's simple. They need a new big playmaker. I've watched Skye Moore in the front row seat for the last 3 years. Let me tell you, this kid can play. This kid can play. He can burn defenders. He can go vertical. He can go horizontal in the screen game. This kid's going to be a good pro. I think Skye Moore is going to be a very good pro. Like I said, the people who follow me here at CMU, they probably won't be too happy with me. But the truth is, guys, I'm just unbiased. Players are players. I think good players are good players, and regardless of what uniform you're wearing. So a lot of respect to Skye Moore, and I think he's going to be real good. He goes in the first round to the Chiefs.
Cameron, number 30, the Chiefs.
Yeah, so I had a whole story prepared to go with Skye Moore here, but Christian jumped the gun and took my guy. So I was going to say, had the pleasure of shooting the Western Michigan game, the bowl game at Ford Field this year, and got to watch Skye Moore play up close and personal. And he is a really, really exciting player. So I think that would have been my pick, but now I'm going to throw you guys a curveball here, and I'm going to go with quarterback Kenny Pickett here at number 30. Just, like I said, kind of a curveball. This is a guy who's not going to probably play or see much time behind the likes of Patrick Mahomes, but that is my pick at number 30.
You're gonna have some pissed. Cameron's playing the Lions here. Excuse me, you're playing the Lions GM role here with your picks. Interesting.
A little bit.
Pissing off a lot of fans here, Cam. Good luck.
A little bit.
Cameron's trying to make noise here. So Cameron wants someone to blog. Detroit sports podcaster tries to replace Mahomes and Allen in the same mock draft. Very interesting.
Right.
With the Mafia on the board, Hall with wide receivers. He's like, we're gonna get Patrick Mahomes a backup. And this makes it fun because there is some unusual things, but not at the quarterback spot. But that makes it fun. Cameron with his great epic picks that we can always relive down the road in the future. Relived on YouTube at the Detroit Sports Podcast YouTube page.
That's right.
All right, cuz round it out for the Bengals at number 31.
So Cincinnati needs a little bit of help along that offensive line. You've got Trevor Pennington there out of northern Iowa. You've got Kenyon Green out of Texas A&M. They also need some help in their secondary. Dax Hill's there. There's also Kari Elam there. So there's a couple different options for the Bengals. I believe that at this point, they take the best player available. And on my draft board, it's Trevor Pennington out of northern Iowa. So I'm going to take the offensive tackle to help protect my quarterback, Joe Burrow.
Okay, this is actually exactly, and please remind me if I'd messed it up. I've tried to write it all down and follow along. Really quality picks from everybody. I've loved this mock draft. I think it really holds up to the research that we've done with needs and players and things like that. 32 Lions need a linebacker. They need help across all aspects of their defense. And when I saw the Georgia Bulldogs dominate the Wolverines, I said, damn, let's just draft all Georgia Bulldogs. Holy cow, they have everything great with Devonta Wyatt, with the likes of the top talented Trayvon Walker, and the guy that just had blazing speed, sideline to sideline, can handle business, and can be part of the Detroit Lions defense for years to come. Just like in the Fan Nation SI Publishers mock draft, and now in the Detroit Sports Podcast mock draft, Nakobe Dean is the pick at 32, rightfully so. Not at wide receiver. I think pay attention at 34 to Christian Watson might be the pick there, the juicy pick. Or if it continues in this trend, you maybe even get a Treylon Burks if he doesn't indeed get drafted.
Or what about Lewis Cine?
Lewis Cine, the safety.
Number 34.
There's other opportunities.
I mocked him. I mocked him in one of my drafts. You know it's going to happen. Not happen.
So we'll see. We'll play it by ear. But I got Nakobe Dean and maybe Cine at 34 or a wide receiver. Or like you guys are astutely noticing that the Lions could even go further down the road in this deep wide receiver class to get a wide receiver. So we'll see. I'm more in line with them trading up for Drake London or get, this could be the draft where they pair. What's better culture where you got your boy Amon-Ra St. Brown, you pair him up with Drake London, you got your boy Penei Sewell, you pair him up with his boy, Kayvon Thibodeau. Friends battling for snaps, reps, catches, and for positioning and the offensive line versus the defensive line. Let's see if that even plays a factor in the Lions draft. Do they pair up their boys with other boys? And that will conclude our Detroit Sports Podcast mock draft. Real quality, guys. You guys did your homework, and that's all I can do is respect that for taking the time to come on here and share your insights regarding the draft. We're all going to be enjoying it. Make sure you guys follow Christian, Booher, Vito, Churko, Cameron, Adam Strozinski. Make sure you guys follow all of I retweet all their stuff all the time. Make sure you follow them on social media. Cameron's photos are amazing. He's out everywhere. He's taking advantage. Just like Vito, there haven't been too many people that have taken advantage of the platform, but everyone here has certainly used it in a way to better their lives or better their situation. And so that's why you guys are here. That's why I take time out of the practice or out of doing other stuff to record podcasts with the people that I care about. I could talk to anybody about sports, but I talk to the four people that I care about the most here at the Detroit Sports Podcast. Second edition of the Detroit Lions mock draft preview and the Detroit Lions draft now coming to a close. Everywhere you find your favorite podcast, just type in Detroit Sports Podcast and our content will find you. If you liked it or didn't like it, if you're a Chiefs fan, complain to Cameron on Instagram. He'll check you out there. If you're a fan of the Lions and you hated my picks, I sincerely apologize. I went with Thibodeau and Nakobe Dean in multiple mock drafts, and I'm sticking to it. Sorry, Michigan fans. You're going to be disappointed on Thursday when the Lions pass Aiden Hutchinson. I need this. You guys know it. I need them to pass on Aiden Hutchinson. Make it happen, Brad Holmes. Pick the best player. Let's get out of here, guys. Enjoy the draft. Follow along at Detroit Podcast. It's going to be a wild night. Come hell or high water, it's going to be a fun time. Let's get after it. Thanks, guys.